We got a shorty today. Today I want to talk about health and fitness and why I think that it's probably one of the most neglected parts of human existence. How people will go months or even years without thinking about the physical ramifications of what they're doing in their body. This was spurred on by me this morning, and the reason why it's short is because it is morning and I have to go to work soon, but I will try to compress it. So this was spurred on by me deciding to have for breakfast coffee and these little cookies, like Oreos or whatever, dipped into it. And I was like dipping into them and I was eating them and I was all like, man, this is like, have you guys ever people in America, this applies to Americans, so Deckers, if you're listening, this won't apply to you. You ever go to McDonald's and you order yourself like a McGriddle or a McSausage and egg or a Mc what the fuck, I don't know, and you bite into that thing and it reprograms your brain into only wanting McDonald's through some weird mad scientist shit, and you black out, and the next day you're literally on your lunch break at McDonald's. I was thinking of that whenever I was having my little cookies and milk and everything. But yeah, I had my cookies and milk, and I was reminded of this person that I used to know for a period of, I don't even know, I think he said 6 or 8 months. He would eat almost exclusively cookies and milk, and we called it Santa Maxing. And at the time, I was pretty surprised that he was still standing. But I guess, maybe he did feel like shit whenever he was eating like that, just cookies and milk and not really eating anything else. Or maybe he was eating other stuff and that was just what he had for lunch or whatever. But I was surprised at the time, and then I kind of realized that it's not that bad compared to how a lot of people eat. Those people that you see at Walmart, the people of Walmart, those people you see at Walmart, and they have invented a new way of carrying their 1 liter bottles, how they're in a 6-pack or whatever, and they will take it and they will place it on the edge, the rim, the lip of their shopping cart, on the side of it, rather than putting it underneath or in the basket. They've invented a new way to carry these things because they just need so much food, they need so much soda, and they're always ridiculously fat, horrendously fat. They're using one of those mobility scooters, and they literally cannot fit inside of it, much less barely the fucking aisle. You can't squeeze past them in the aisle because their cheeks are so big and round. They're taking up, they're horizontal. It's like somebody's laying in the seat horizontally, taking a nap, driving up and down the rows. But no, it's just them. They're just that fat. Those people probably have the body of a 90-year-old. And we're not going to live very much longer. The amount of stress that this has on their bodies is magnanimous. I will say it's as massive as their side fat, their love handles. But yeah, I just want to kind of talk about how food, right? So bananas, they're all clones of each other. They're GMO clones. Grapes are GMO clones, and it's getting to the point where they even cows, any cow, any meat that you can buy. Well, it's almost always female because they kill the males. I don't know why. I guess, yeah, I just don't know why. But you never actually get bull meat. It's always the female meat. But it's getting to the point now where cows are literally GMO clones of each other. There is no genetic diversity. They're those albino mice that they use for experiments. And if you're eating that every day, here's what I think. Look at what happened to the original banana. the original banana essentially got this root fungus, and it spread from plant to plant, and it just infected the soil, and it stayed in the soil, and there wasn't really a way to get rid of that fungal infection in the soil. So you had to like essentially replace the whole thing, and it would just spread again, because of the way that they factory farm these bananas. And so it killed most of the bananas. It's not actually extinct, and you could buy the original banana again. Like if you go online, you can still buy the original banana. It's just that it keeps dying, so it's really expensive. But they decided to just replace the original bananas, which were all clones of each other, like bread clones. They decided to replace the original banana with this new banana, which doesn't taste the same, but at least it's a banana, and it was immune to this this root fungus, which I forget the name of. But so basically, that's kind of what's going to happen to, I believe, all forms of food. So right now we have, well, not the best forms of food. I'd say like the people in the 80s, or maybe even the 50s had like the best forms of food, like the ideal peak food. Because, their milkshakes were actual milkshakes, their coffee was actual coffee, their beef was actual beef. And there are plenty of, you just go on TikTok, you can go on YouTube or whatever, and then just look up people being like, oh, this isn't beef. Just look up this isn't beef, or like, I don't know, just whatever keyword. But essentially, there's like an entire genre of videos on YouTube and TikTok where it's essentially just people who, they'll buy like brand new meat, and they'll open it from like either the butcher store or like Walmart or Kroger or Meijer or whatever else, and they will open it, and you know how like beef will have like those like tiny little like white strings in it that are like really, really small. Well, no, that's not what they're getting. They're getting like Play-Doh, like how like you ever see those like Walmart burger patties, and they're just made out of like horrendously ground up meat, and then they like mold it into the shape of like a patty. It looks like the fucking Chum Bucket patty. Well, that's what they're making some of the meat out of, and it'll be like top tier Angus beef or whatever. But no, it has no. It's not a steak. It's not a pot roast. It's not whatever you want to call it. It's just meat paste, and they shape it into a steak, and they will literally like 3D print the little layers of fat in it. You know how it has like that marbling where the fat will run through and in between the different kinds of muscles. Well, they'll actually 3D print that in there. But I think that there's going to be some sort of like cow brain prion, or like some cow disease that's going to spread throughout the cow population, and there's not really going to be a way to contain it. Because if they can't, because all of these cows are clones of each other. I mean, not exactly, but they're basically clones of each other. If they don't have the ability to resist against this disease, because in nature it wasn't a problem, because there was so much genetic diversity between inside of the species that at least like half of the population is going to have a resistance to a new disease, and maybe like 10% or lower maybe is going to be completely immune to it, or at least to the point where they're not really going to have very many symptoms. And this just isn't the case whenever you have these food sources that are, one, GMO, and two, they're genetically identical. So another thing that I believe that will happen because of this is seedless fruits. Bananas are seedless. A lot of grapes are seedless. Watermelons are seedless. Oranges are seedless. Well, apples aren't really seedless, but I think that's just because they haven't made it yet. If you could buy all the way through an apple, they'd probably, you'd probably want that. But when was the last time you bit into a banana seed? Yeah. No. Well, that's because, they don't have seeds, so you're probably asking yourself, how do they grow it? Like, if it can't reproduce, how does it grow? Well, it doesn't reproduce. It actually is a clone of the exact same. Let's say like an orange. The oranges that you can buy that are seedless, that are just the basic oranges, those are clones of the same branch that was found like a gajillion fucking years ago. I think it was China. They were growing, oranges, some like monks or something, and then they found the oranges on this one particular branch of this tree didn't have any seeds in it. And so what they did is that they actually cut the branch off and cut down like a tree that was of similar size, and they basically just Frankensteined the stem or like the root system of the healthy tree onto this branch, and they like fucking robot chickened it up, sewed it together, and then it grew into a full-sized seedless tree. And they just kept doing that with the branches. And kind of the same thing with seedless grapes. A lot of these grapes are the exact, they're clones or like clippings of the same vine that was found in ancient Greece, or maybe it was Rome, somewhere in there. I think it was Greece. What I'm trying to say with all this is that they're all basically clones. All the food is the same, and so the only thing that it takes is one disease that just happens to adapt to feeding on these clones, and none of them will have any resistance against it. And it's happened plenty of times before. Even like the potato famine in Ireland, which I know that was more like a cover story, like a sacrificial lamb kind of thing, where the English blamed the potato famine or the potato disease on why there was a potato famine, when in reality the English just kind of like starved and was basically just genociding the Irish people by taking away their food. Anyway, whatever. Look at the potato famine. Look at like every other like natural crop disaster that's happened recently. So, I mean, I don't have that much time, but something that I do want to talk about is, the effect that this has on people. And I probably should have been talking about this earlier. But, the amount of healthy people that I see every day is like basically nothing. I have this coworker, he does nothing all day anyway, by the way. But I saw him at the supermarket one time, and I looked in his cart, and he had like he has like an autistic son, but like it seemed like his whole cart was full of autism food, like the dino nuggies and chicken nuggets and chicken tenders and like all the stuff that's very palpable to the autism diet. It seemed like that's what he was doing, but with everything. So he had like microwavable stuff, he had his like bottled water or whatever. So I guess that's like quote unquote healthy, even though it has microplastics. But no fruits, no vegetables. And I remember, like, I was just talking with him, or whatever. But I looked over at my cart to see what I had, and I was all like, I got watermelon, I got like pounds and pounds of raw meat that I'm gonna cook. Like, we're gonna make like shish kebabs. I've got bananas, like, cause I tend to eat pretty healthy, or I try to anyway, if I can. But we had like a fuck ton of like really, really good healthy food. And I kind of realized, like, even people who aren't like fat are like still eating like garbage. And it makes sense because whenever I go to try to go buy like healthy food, the selection is like tiny. Like, like go to the bread aisle. It's like literally almost as far as the eye can see of just like white bread. Or you go to like the snack aisle. There's not even just like one snack aisle anymore. It's like 4 snack aisles. And they separate it. They go to like crackers, and then it's like cereal, and then it's like, whatever other shelf stable thing. It's like, oh, it's not as potato chips and trail mix and all this stuff that's in a bag. There's like 4 different aisles for snacks, one aisle entirely for candy. Like, what? And I'm not just talking about like Halloween time, because I know Halloween time's coming up. No, I'm talking about just year round. They have an entire aisle for candy. And so that's always confused me, because you could have because I would look for like very common ingredients, you know, that were available previously in America, like bones or like, you know, ground pork, ground turkey, ground chicken, that kind of stuff. Very, very basic, like big bulk bags of like black beans or like pinto beans or whatever else, or you know, just things that you think would just be available, but they're not. You know, you know, so one of these aisles could be dedicated to like more healthy or like simplistic foods that just come from animals or plants, and it's just the extracts from them, like the actual like yield, instead of like all this garbage. So if we replace the candy aisle with like just basic vegetables aisle, you know, where it's like, you know, the corn and it actually is like on the cob, like inside of the husk. If we were to replace all of this, all that fucking candy with decent food, just like bones, just like, you know, actual chops of like huge chops of meat with like the bones still in them, lots of ribs. I mean, I think people would be like healthier just from that, because it would make it easier. And yeah, I'm talking about Walmart. But I don't think that people really understand the horrendous impact that this has on their body. I don't think they understand the amount of stress that it puts them through. I don't think they understand like how sad it makes them not getting any exercise. Just being a fat fucking slob. I haven't been that fat in my life because I've always taken care of myself. But you know, whenever I was like at my fattest, like I always felt like shit. I always had no energy. But I just don't understand how these people live their lives. There's something in the food here in America that just makes you fat. I'm sure you guys have heard of those stories of Americans who go on vacation in Europe and they basically, you know, they don't put themselves on like a diet or anything because they're on vacation, and you know, they eat whatever they want, and it's either in Europe or like Japan or something, and then they actually lose weight on their vacation because the food is just so much better and not like slopified. Like it's not just goi slop over there. It's not like goi feed. It tends to be actual food, and you know, that just goes to show like the shit that they put in our food, and why I choose not to buy this pre-processed garbage. What I buy whenever I get groceries is exactly like I said. Like I try to stay within, you know, basic ingredients, and I try to make it so, you know, if you look at the ingredient list, which, you know, I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember those commercials where it's like spot the block. But, you know, they were telling you to look at the nutrition label of the food to educate yourself and see what's in it. Well, if you, at the bottom of the nutrition label, there's this thing called the ingredients list, and it goes from the most prevalent ingredient to the least prevalent ingredient by weight. And so, like, if it's a drink, well, the first ingredient is going to be water. That's what they mean when they say the first ingredient is this, the second ingredient is that. They're meaning that that's the most prevalent ingredient. So, what was I even going to say? I guess I was just going to go on around like educating yourself, but essentially look at the ingredients list. Look at the ingredients list in this food, this pre-processed food that you buy, and you probably notice that it's very, very long, and it has straight up chemicals in it, because the actual approval process whenever it comes to adding chemicals in food is not what you think. It's not anywhere. It is not like the drug industry. If somebody wants to add an ingredient to food, they can just do it. No questions asked, no trials. You know, because, well, if people get sick, they can get sued, but so they don't want that to happen. So they usually do a little bit of testing in-house, but it's not very good. It's not like the FDA or the, you know, what they do for the drugs. But, yeah, they can just add any ingredient that they want. And so if they see like an ingredient on there, like, I don't know, crystallized benzyme, potassium nitrate, blah, 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 you know, and they add it in there, and then they see it like at the tiniest 0.001% boost in sales, or like, you know, they do these like trials on like mice, and then the mice will eat like 1% more food. Well, you know, they're gonna put that in your food, and they're not gonna test what it's doing to you. You know, it could legitimately. I think all of us are gonna get ball cancer. I think every single male, you know, after living in America, you know, forget asbestos, forget like, you know, whatever healthcare, forget COVID-19, forget coronavirus. Like, I think that every single dude in the United States, by the time that we get out of this, I think we're all gonna have a fat fucking lump on our balls. And I think we're not to blame. The actual people who eat this stuff, I don't think that we're to blame at all. I think that it's a combination. Well, it's mainly the people who are behind and like rubbing their hands behind the scenes, behind the curtain of the food industry, you know. But I just don't see it ending well, and I feel really, really bad for anybody who just like exists in this perpetual fatty state, this McDonald's limbo. Should I choose Taco Bell or McDonald's today? I feel bad for these people, and I make fun of them a lot, but like, honestly, They are hungry. They're literally starving. I'm not joking. Like, if you look at the metrics for like their muscle mass or like their blood sugar levels, they are literally starving to death inside of that fat suit. Seriously. So like the spinal flexors of a normal person should be about the width of like a baseball bat handle, right? In these people who are like ginormously fat, those spinal flexors are often in between the size of like a magic marker and a pencil, because their muscles are literally atrophied because they're starving. So they'll eat like all these carbs. The insulin will spike. It'll pull all of the resources out of the blood and put it into fat by force, at gunpoint, essentially. And their body is only left to start atrophying muscle and atrophying tissue. And for nutrients, because it's starving. And so whenever they say like, I'm hungry, they legitimately are. And I kind of feel bad for them that they have to live this way. I bet you didn't know that. I bet you thought they were just being retarded, but no, they're actually hungry, and they're actually uncomfortable, and they're actually in pain all the time. And whenever you look at them and tell them they have to eat less, they're gonna, like, obviously they're very, very hungry, so they're not gonna do that. You have to actually understand like what's going on here. But it's not their fault. It's the fault of, you know, the Brazilians in charge, the Brazilians behind the scenes who are, you know, forming the Brazilian mafia, and they've seized control over the food industry. And the Brazilian mafia is attempting to, or they're successfully planting all these chemicals and like exogenous hormones and plastics and everything else into the food to try to make you not have no balls. But watch out for those Brazilians, you know. You know, keep in mind, you know, if they got the little hat, but they're also Brazilian, you know, if they got their hands clasped together, then, you know, you need to watch yourself. You know, Brazilian food is actually, like, if you go down to the Brazilian aisle in Walmart, and you look at the food in the Brazilian aisle, the Brazilian food, and it has the little Brazilian star of the star of Brazil on the food. You know, if you look at their food that they eat, it's actually much more simple and often very cheap. It's cheaper than the Goi food. Those fucking Brazilians, dude. I don't even know what to say. But yeah, just go to your Brazilian aisle, or maybe even go to a Brazilian like shop. Like if especially if you live in like an area with a lot of Brazilians, go and see. Go on Google Maps and look up Brazilian shop. And yes, I'm using coded language. Don't actually look up Brazilian shop. But anyways, you know what I'm talking about. Go look up Brazilian shop and go there and check out these prices. Like, if you thought you were a penny pincher, dude, they got like such cheap prices. I'm surprised more people don't shop there. I guess maybe they'll kick them out if they're black. I don't know. But go to the Brazilian shops. Look at their food, look at their ingredients, look at like the better food that they're having over like, the normal average American. And go to Walmart or Goi Slop Central. Super Goi Slop, Super Weenie Hut Goi Slops. Go there and then see the quality of food that you get. But yeah, people are fat. It's not really their fault. I mean, it kind of is their fault, but it's not really their fault. It's like disgusting. The food here is poison. It's the Brazilians' fault, and what you need to do is, one, grow your own food if you have time and space. Well, if you have space, because I know you have time, because all it does is sit there. Go to Whole Foods if you can. Don't drink the tap water, otherwise it'll make you high. Try to have one of those brass water filters in your house if you can. Look up brass water filter if you don't know what I'm talking about. Don't have the pre-processed, like, sugar-infused, like, injection molded burger patties from Walmart, because they'll kill you and give you ball cancer. And try and stay healthy, and get a little bit of exercise. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that you need to be a bodybuilder, because I legitimately don't think that that's for everybody, and I think a lot of people don't actually like working out because it hurts. But I would say do some calisthenics, go on walks, some light intensity cardio. Do some push-ups, swing from some trees, hang from some tree branches, go outside, do that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter how old you are. And you feel a lot better, and you'll look a lot better too. You could be the same weight, and a person who exercises and a person who doesn't, a person who eats well and a person who doesn't, are going to look very, very, very different. Very, very different. And people think you're really cool for having that kind of body, because they can just see that you're actually healthy, and that's cool. It is. But yeah, keep yourself safe. We'll figure it out. Whatever the things that do I say at the end of these things, I don't even know. But yeah, KYS, keep yourself safe. Bye.